Alright, hi guys. I know this is, kind of early, and, I usually don't film this close, and usually it's, a long time, but a few days ago, I was, doing my usual thing online, and I was doing my usual thing online, and okay, first of all, it gets so annoying when I'm online and I go to a different tab. This is really not really that annoying, but I'm gonna get into why it's annoying. And in the news, you'll see something about Trump, and he's like, and his like bullshit, or you see some political news, and it's yes, it doesn't align with sort of what you're going for, sort of your political stances, which most of my audience, there's probably maybe some of my audience this might not have anything to do with, but well, not this video. This video might. I'm speaking to like the people outside of my audience is who I'm speaking to, like the older generations who, kind of get wrapped up in Trump's charlatanry, and like most of us younger people. There are some younger people who get wrapped up in his bullshit as well, because he is an appealing character. He is an appealing character to connect with and support. But to me, it's just, since I'm used to charlatans, because I lived with a charlatan for 20 years. I've lived with that kind of person. And then, we went to seek help from another charlatan, to help out with the family problems. But she didn't do shit. She just, kind of, made it worse. She didn't make it worse, she just didn't really do anything. But, her own little bullshit dance with him. And this has nothing to do with anything, but I really don't care. What the fuck? Okay. But I was online and, in the embassy, that fucking news that's like no one listens to and no one gives a fuck about, but that news. That like news that no one looks at, but then they just click past it. And I saw something with Trump's face on it, and in the title below it said, Trump condemns basically racism, white supremacy, and and all that stuff. So I was doing a little bit of work, in my other, life, and and I'll get into that in a different video, but I think, like, I actually clicked on the MSNBC, or whatever the fuck that news site is, and I watched the video, and it's basically a bunch of clips. It's clips, and they cut out, like, a lot of his talking, but, to get, like, the main point. And to get, like, the gist of his entire speech. And, first of all, I don't like Trump, obviously, for obvious reasons, too. And, okay, I gotta do this with my phone, otherwise it's gonna keep scrolling up. So I'm gonna be reading from my notes, not the entire time, but So first off, I want to say, great job to Trump. Great job. Good job. You condemned racists. You condemned basically all your audience base. Great job. You condemned those racist incels. Good for you. Now let's move on. Since, you had your ego stroked for about 2 seconds. Okay, but then he went on, and then this is where I have a problem. He went off into, in the next, clip, condemning the internet and using the internet as a scapegoat. Which, first of all, the internet is a tool. You can use it for those things he listed in the video of smuggling drugs. You can use it for, violent crimes and other stuff like that. Yes, that's very true. But condemning the internet, condemning a tool where those things are, a part of the entire internet, the entire collective of what we as people put online is stupid. If you want to condemn those parts of the internet and condemn those and people using the internet for those things, great. But condemning the entire internet and saying the internet is evil because of these things and giving examples, the internet is not good or evil. It is a tool. Just like a hammer is a tool, just like a wrench, just like anything like that is a tool. It comes down to the way the people use it and our intentions. It is not good or bad. It is a tool to be used for a multitude of different things. So, any older generation that's scared of the internet is just like your hammer. It is a tool to be used, but it can also be used in many different ways. It is just a tool. It is not good or bad. It is neutral. It is what you use it for. That is when you can say, well, actually you can't really say that it's evil. It's you're deciding what you're using it for. Are you using it for good or are you using it for bad? And then he went off into, in the next clip he talks about the person who committed an atrocity. And I'm going to say yes, he committed an atrocity. Fuck him. But saying that he was mentally ill, and then blaming everybody around him for not picking up the red flags and being able to identify the red flags, and then not doing anything about them. That's first of all, in our American society, we are not taught, on a whole, to recognize red flags of any sort. In some places, we have a good understanding of red flags, but we don't know how to communicate to other people that, hey, I'm noticing these things, and, they could lead to something bigger. We're also not taught communication as well, which, with those two things of not being able to identify red flags and then being able to communicate those feelings and communicate your thoughts and feelings on those red flags, those can be a volatile mix. Are we sure that he presented red flags? Maybe in hindsight, yes. We can make up bullshit and say, yeah, there were so many red flags. Or we can also say that, no, looking back on it, no, we really didn't have any red flags. We didn't know, because one day it kind of just bubbled over and blew up. And it blew up in a horrible, horrible way, with a bunch of people getting hurt and a bunch of people dying. And again, we can say fuck him, because he, instead of being able to go to people and communicate his frustrations and communicate his feelings, which also that's kind of on us as a society. That's kind of on us, that we should at least take some of that blame, because he wasn't given tools. He wasn't given tools to communicate those feelings of depression, communicate those feelings of rage, communicate those feelings of I want to really hurt someone, and fueled in violent tendencies. We haven't given him an outlet. We give him like video games, but if we're gonna give people like him video games, can we not condemn those? Why are we condemning those video games like Call of Duty, GTA, Grand Theft Auto? Why are we now condemning them and then condemning him for playing that and saying he's lazy? He's, not doing anything. Maybe he is. Maybe he is getting his frustrations out. Maybe he's channeling his anger into something that isn't harmful. Those ones and zeros in that video game, they're not real. Let people play those video games. It can be a stress reliever. Let them play on free roam. Let them play on, maybe in the moment if you sit down behind him and watch him cursing at his screen or cursing into a headset at other players, that's still an energy release that is less damaging than going out into the real world, obtaining a weapon, also a tool, but obtaining a weapon and then massacring a bunch of people because he didn't have those channels that he could, use without feeling judged. Because we also judge him, and then we judge those video games. So indirectly, are we judging those players of those video games? Yeah, sorta. Like, I don't play many video games. Most of the games I play are on my phone, and they're mostly fantasy driven. They're mostly RPGs. They're not. I have GTA. I played it. But it doesn't mean because I played GTA, do I want to now go out and harm innocent people? Like, there's no real correlation there. There's no causation. Like, playing violent video games with graphic imagery does not cause people to become more violent in their everyday real life and then want to do that to other people. Want to do that to real people. Most of the time, they're just satisfied. They're satisfied and satiated to get out that stress, to get out those, feelings. And taking out on a bunch of ones and zeros that a team of programmers programmed them with. So again, Trump and other politicians, other older people and politicians have just used video games as a scapegoat. Why are we doing this? Why don't we just have people take responsibility and actually look at science, actually look at research, instead of just blaming tragic events like mass murder on video games. Like, that's fucking stupid. No, it's because they don't have those outlets without feeling shame about using those outlets. Like, going to therapy is still taboo, even in 2020. It's getting less taboo, but for the greater population that's not sitting online watching a whole bunch of influencers saying, yeah, going to therapy, like, deep down, it's, still taboo to us to go and pay someone to talk about our frustration, to talk about our feelings just in general, and create a healthier lifestyle for us, and talk about our wants and our needs and how they're not being met or how they are being met. Like, it's fucking dumb. Like, do I blame that guy? Yeah, he has responsibility for fucking killing people. But I think the older generation and the generations before, they hold some responsibility too for perpetuating these cycles, and perpetuating instead of looking and finding better ways to help out the younger generation and younger people and people in their own generation as well. I think the best thing we could do for those troubled youth that Trump talks about, or every politician talks about when they say troubled youth, why don't we invest in things like mental health services, invest in, and put emphasis on them, instead of saying, oh, they're just troubled, and then they play video games, so then they go out and then they go and kill people. Like, that's fucking stupid. You know what a better idea is treating them with respect. Why don't we treat them with respect instead of doing that, instead of shaming them, instead of constantly degrading them as being troubled? Why don't we just treat them with respect, talk to them like they're actually humans, and then, we can have a dialogue between them, and then we can work together, to have their emotional, mental well-being and physical well-being met, and everyone can just work together. Yeah, I get it. There are going to be those outliers that are still gonna fuck everybody up and fuck up lives. Those are the outliers. If we work together, we're gonna have far less of these mass shootings, of these mass murders. We'll have far less. And how about like a comprehensive gun laws, so then we can, instead of just having all these weapons, I like weapons, but I also know how to use them. I also know how to use them, and I also know how to research them. I know how to keep myself safe with them. So I don't think demonizing tools is the way. Guns are dangerous. Yes, we all know this. Why do you think we use them in war? Giving access to everyone who wants a gun. Should we? I don't know. I think we should have classes on guns. People need to know how to use them. We should have comprehensive classes. They should have a test. They should know what they're getting themselves into and how to use them. Give them the education. Give them ethics. Give them, when to use them. Drill at home. Drill ethics, like when to use a gun is appropriate and when it's not appropriate. That will also decrease the likelihood of things like this happening as well. If we're drilling ethics, like when and when not to use a weapon. What's an appropriate response? And then what's an appropriate response to these feelings of rage, of feelings of, not just depression. What is the word? Despair. And wanting to get noticed. Because we now notice him, but we don't know his name. Well, when we talk about that person, when we talk about him, he's gonna know it's, oh, I did this thing. Unless he killed himself, which a lot of them do. They do what they were gonna do and then they kill themselves. Because they don't want to face up to what they just did. Because they were so in that pit of despair and pit of depression that, hey, you know what, I'm gonna, get my anger out. I feel done. Now I'm gonna end it. Now I'm gonna end it so then I don't have to keep going through this endless cycle of despair. I said it at the beginning, but this guy, Trump, he's a charlatan. He's a businessman. He knows how to sell you things. He knows how to sell himself. If he knows how to sell if he knows how to sell bullshit, he knows how to sell himself. So people are gonna listen to him. He's gonna say what he wants. He's gonna flash a few statistics that he pulled out of his ass, or he pulled off the internet from Breitbart, or anything to get him more attention and more eyes on him will fuel him. He's thinking about himself and how he can maintain a grip of power over people. Maintain a sense of agency where he can feel okay with himself. He's a businessman. He knows how to sell himself. He knew how to sell himself in 2016. Like, a bunch of younger people loved him. A bunch of older people love him. Because they grew up with him. He's 70 years old. So, that older generation I'm talking about, they're still alive. They grew up with him. And the people that are, the people share some of those same views that he talks about. His racist ideologies. Yeah, he condemned them. He did it in 2016. Why is he doing it now? Oh, because it makes him look good? Yeah, that's why. You can trust a charlatan, but unless you're him, you're not going to get much out of it unless you align everything up to, unless all your goals align with his, you're not going to get much out of him. It's going to end up, turning off, and he's going to turn on you. Just like he did with his audience base in 2016. The racist incels, the KKK, and everyone like them. He literally condemned them in his speech. Was that his PR team saying, hey, you should condemn this? And then he actually took the advice because he ran over in his mind saying, yeah, that will get me some views. That'll get me votes. Yeah, that's how his mind works. I don't need to be a doctor. I don't need to be his mental health counselor or his doctor to know how charlatans and narcissists operate. I've done my research. I can pick out patterns. Like, it's not hard to do. Go back through all his old tweets. Go back to every single thing he said from 2016 and before when he was running for president until now. You'll find a pattern. And it's going to be glaring. At the end, first of all, let's stop every politician watching this, which I know pretty much no one is. But send this to every politician you know. Every politician on the right and the left, Republican and Democrat, can we stop calling people struggling with mental illness monsters? Because that's going to keep perpetuating the tragedies like this as well. Just erase that from your vocabulary. Just erase it. It's not going to help. It's going to help you with the base that went through this tragedy and have those elevated, that passionate rage. But let's stop with this every single person struggling with mental illness monsters. They're not monsters. They're people struggling with a mental illness that we can help. They're not monsters. That guy, he wasn't a monster until he killed until he took his first shot and killed someone and hurt someone. That's when you become that monster. But everyone else, they're not monsters. I get it. We want to call them monsters, but they're not. They're people struggling like everybody else, but with different struggles. And if we push those emphasis and those ideals of going to therapy, seeking mental health facilities. And can we also shut down all the other places that are fucking bullshit as well? Like, politicians have this power. Fucking shut down all those other fucking bullshit mental health clinics pushing religious fucking ideologies and fucking up people. Fucking shut down pathways as well. That's one. That's where you should start. Start in Ohio and shut down pathways. Because you know what? They're fucking up people. And you know what? Those people are going to go around starting their own clinics and it breeds. And it perpetuates more of this fucking bullshit. So shut down those things. They can have the religious freedoms. Do that. Let them keep that. They can practice their religion. But pushing it on to people and then saying, oh, you know what? Stay in abusive situations. Oh, pray on it. What are you talking about? He probably was. He was probably praying about how all those things up in his head won't go away and praying to God that they would fucking go away. You have to put in work. He didn't know that because he wasn't taught that. He wasn't taught that in his schools. He wasn't taught that in his mental health sessions, if he actually went. He wasn't taught that in his Sunday schools that, hey, you know what? You have to put in work. You have to put in investment into yourself and your mental health and your emotional health. Just like your body, where you have to exercise it and you have to keep it, you have to keep it fed and you have to keep it watered. You have to, maintain. Mental health is something to be maintained. It's to bring in things that give you a sense of mental stability. And you know what? I think that's all I have to say. Otherwise, I can just keep going on and on. So, I'm going to say goodbye for now. Because I think I made myself a little bit more clear on these issues.